What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Undisputed Podcast. Me and my co-host Jeff do our own separate videos on two matches from each pay-per-view. Starting in 1997, going to current. We're on our second match of the 1997 King of the Ring. We have the Undertaker defending the WWF title against Farooq. So pretty much like they start off with an interview, and Farooq just vows that he's going to become the first African American World Wrestling Federation champion. So Farooq enters the building first, followed by the Nation. Then you see Undertaker backstage. Undertaker is being blackmailed into having Paul Bearer as a manager. He says he knows something that he can drop a bombshell that would ruin the Undertaker. And Bearer says Undertaker must do whatever he says. So Taker out next. Taker starts the match arguing with Paul Bearer. Farooq jumps Taker from behind and starts hammering away at the right hands. Taker grabs him by the throat. Ends up throwing him into the turnbuckle. You know how the Undertaker does. He always does it. And he starts teeing off on Farooq there. And then Farooq out of the corner gets clotheslined by the Undertaker. And then Undertaker goes for an elbow drop and he misses. Then Taker gets back up and he uppercuts Farooq after what looked like a botched big boot, but I'm not quite sure. I didn't want to rewind it because I record the match at the same time that I'm watching it, so I didn't want to rewind, but it kind of looked like it was like a botched big boot. And so in order to knock him down, he just uppercutted him, and then he got a 2 count, because you usually don't pin somebody after an uppercut, so I'm assuming that that's why he uppercutted him, was because he missed the big boot. So Farooq ends up power slamming the Undertaker after this and gets a 2 count here. Taker sits up, but the Nation starts getting involved now. This right here is where the Nation starts getting involved. You knew it was coming. When he came out with all the Nation, you knew it was coming. The ref should have probably ejected him from ringside immediately, but he opted not to, obviously. So, little neat spot here. Taker goes to old school, and instead of jumping onto Farooq, he takes a dive to the outside on top of all the guys on the outside. And then he starts beating up the Nation, right? Because you got to take out the Nation, or you're never gonna win. Might have been here too early for that, but he does it anyway because he doesn't give a fuck. So Taker ends up hanging up Farooq up on the top rope, and Farooq falls down. Taker gets a 2 count, and Taker goes for old school again, and of course the Nation gets involved again and drops the Undertaker right on his nuts on the top rope. Then Farooq says something about, how is this for a black man? Then delivers a suplex to the Undertaker. So basically, those of you who don't know much about the Nation, they were a racist group in '97. They would never get away with it today, but they were pretty much black people who hated white people, which is weird because Crush is in the group and he's white, right? And they're tired of the mistreatment of black people, and that's pretty big in 2021, actually. Still, so not much has changed here. Except for the fact that they couldn't do that storyline nowadays because the world's kind of soft. But I think the group's badass, but they were clearly heels at the time. So then after the suplex of Taker ends up countering with the clothesline, and then Farooq gets a low blow right in front of the ref. Again, doesn't DQ him, doesn't nothing. Pins him right afterwards, gets a 2 count. Then the Nation starts choking Taker. And then Farooq ends up tossing Taker to the outside. But when they get to the outside, Taker reverses and throws Farooq right into the steel steps. They get back on the ring, and then Farooq immediately counters right into a beautiful looking pile driver for Farooq. 2 count, and then they sit in a headlock for a long while. This is the dead period of the match. They sit there for just a while. I don't know what's going on here, but sorry, I always do these videos after work and I'm always tired. So after a while, Taker gets up and drops Farooq with a jawbreaker, and they say it's like an inverted Stone Cold Stunner. To kind of give Stone Cold props, but the jawbreaker's been around way longer than the Stunner has, so it's a jawbreaker. The Taker goes for like a belly splash, and then Farooq puts his knees up, and then both guys exchange moves that they keep missing. Then Farooq finally goes up to the turnbuckle and goes to dive off, and Undertaker counters with a power slam. Then Taker goes for his vintage flying clothesline in the middle of the ring. He misses that. And while they're both men are down, the Nation starts to fight outside. Because coming into this match, the Nation had some turmoil between them, some beef, and stuff wasn't going good for the Nation. They start arguing. This distracts Farooq, and as Farooq is turning around, the Undertaker sits up. And when Farooq turns around, the Undertaker hits the tombstone and gets the win. Then after the match, he chokeslams Savio Vega, and he chokeslams Crush, and then Paul Bearer forces the Undertaker to deliver not one, not two, but 3 chokeslams reluctantly to Farooq after the match is already over. Finally, Ahmed Johnson comes to save and hits his Pearl River plunge on the Undertaker. And that's funny that Ahmed comes because Ahmed had been beefing with the Nation for the entire year. He actually eliminated himself from the Royal Rumble to go after Farooq. But this leads to Ahmed being part of the Nation for about 2 weeks. Then he gets injured. Like the big thing of his career was he was always injured and he couldn't wrestle. So it's like a double whammy. So yeah, that's the match. Match wasn't bad, but it wasn't anything special. It was short. The Undertaker was never in danger of losing this match. There was never any spots where you're like, oh, this match could be over. And then it ended very abruptly. There wasn't like a flurry of moves. He just literally turned around into the tombstone. So I'm going to mark it down a little bit for that. I think I'm going to give it like a 3.5 out of 10. I really don't see any reason to recommend this match to anybody. And that's the reasoning for my grade. There was nothing here. It just set up turmoil for the Nation. They literally could have did that with any other opponent. I don't understand why this was a world title match. And the blackmailing stuff with Paul Bearer could have been done with a opponent that would have taken Taker more to the limit. So that's kind of my beef with this match. And the slow headlock thing lasted way too long. Well, I mean, other than that, it was solid back and forth stuff. So I'm not really critiquing the in-work stuff. It was just more like he was never a threat to lose. You never were worried about. Yeah, as a fan, you're never worried about the Undertaker losing his title in this match. Farouk's not that great of a wrestler, anyways. He's kind of a brawler. So, damn, I gotta stop yawning. So it's just that. It's just there. I think Austin Michaels probably should have been the main event of this show, but it wasn't. So, missed call there by WWF, I think. So, but we'll see what Jeff has to say.